all the black people of this world, children of Africa. I greet you from wherever you're watching me from, be it from the United States, be it from the Caribbean, or any other place in the world. Have you ever thought about relocating or at least visiting Africa? Well, in this video, I'll discuss the various compelling reasons why it is important for all African Americans or other people of African descent who are born outside the continent, why they need to at least visit or relocate to the African continent. But before we proceed, have a look at this video.
One African nation is sending a message to African Americans in the wake of George Floyd's death.
We continue to open our arms and invite all our brothers and sisters home. Ghana is your home. Africa is your home.
Ghana recently unveiled a monument to Floyd and is openly calling for Black Americans to move there. The country has courted the black dollar for some time. Last year, the president launched the Year of Return initiative, marking 400 years since the first documented arrival of West African slaves to America. Young and old flocked to the country for a number of cultural events, such as Accra Fashion Week and the music festival Afrochella. Ghana's finance minister hailed the scheme a massive success, saying it recorded as much as $3 billion in added GDP. The government in Accra is now building on that momentum with another initiative called Beyond the Return, which aims to encourage investment in Ghana.
The clarion call now for the Back to Africa movement to be reignited is really something that is natural. Africa is home, and we are hoping to open our arms to our kith and kin to come back home.
Hello everybody, my name is Rashad McCrory.
One African-American man who came for a business trip in February says he chose to stay and see the pandemic through there, and he urges others to follow in his footsteps.
Really consider moving to Africa. Really consider moving to Ghana. This land, the resources, the riches, everything is here for you to succeed.
A country once central to the transatlantic slave trade, now offering a safe haven for those looking to restart their lives. Stephanie Busari, CNN, Lagos.
Well, it's now more than 400 years ever since Black Africans were taken away from the African continent and taken to the West and others to the Caribbean for purposes of slavery. And for the last 400 years, the treatment of African Americans has not been very good. This is because we have seen instances of racism. This is where African Americans are always subjected, to police shootings and stuff like that. So it has come a time for African Americans to think about relocating to the African continent. And one of the main reasons why this should happen is because Africa is their motherland. Africa is your home. And as all of you know by now, there is a certain comfort that comes, with being at home. And this is because if African Americans were to relocate back to the African continent, they don't stand out in terms of appearance from the other people. And so there won't be instances of structural racism like they have experienced in the West. And this concept of structural racism has affected people of African descent a lot. This is because you stand out and you're targeted for your looks and appearance alone. And this is very limiting, and it limits talented, the opportunities and also the potential in life of African Americans, because they're targeted for just their mere appearances. And it's very, very dangerous. So the African continent provides a very good opportunity for African Americans not only to exist, but to thrive. You won't be targeted by police, for shootings. Yeah. So this is why you have to at least once in your lifetime visit the African continent. And the second point that I would like to talk about is that African Americans and other people of African descent who were born outside of continental Africa have a lot to teach, the black Africans. And why do I say this? I say this because, of course, the USA is a superpower and they are technologically much more advanced more than Africa countries. And in the USA itself, you find that there are black people who are prosperous, who have risen across the ranks in terms of career, and they are in a position to, gain very important information, that can assist the continent of Africa to progress, and thrive, yeah. And this may be in different sectors. It may be in the medicine sector. It may be in the construction industry. It may be in aviation or different other areas, yeah. So such kind of skills and information is very much wanted and very much helpful to the Africa continent, because one thing that African Americans have to realize is that it is their responsibility to also build, the African continent, because the responsibility of building the African continent lies with all the people of African descent. And for us to be respected from all over the world, we have to develop Africa, because if Africa is not developed, there is no way other races or other people outside the African continent are going to respect us. And the other point why African Americans should at least relocate back to the African continent is that continental Africans actually love African Americans. Yes, I know that for quite a long time there has been this type of propaganda, trying to divide continental Africans and African Americans, and trying to tell, or convince the African Americans that continental Africans do not love them. And this is a lie, and it has been spread over time through the Western media stations like the CNN, Fox News, and movies, yeah. But I'm here to tell you, as a black African, that for us, we don't have anything against African Americans, and in fact, we are very happy to reconnect with you and see you back home to the African continent. So don't fear that you're going to be treated in a bad way just because you are an African American. We understand that this is your home and you deserve to come back to your home. And the other point that I'm going to discuss as to why African Americans need to come back home is that by coming back home, it provides a very good opportunity for you to teach continental Africans about, to awaken black Africans on various racial issues. And let me start by saying that for us African Americans, for us black Africans, we don't have much exposure, or much interactions with white people and people from other races. And this is one of the reasons why we tend to be very naive, because we see them sometimes as our saviors. And as you know, these people are not our saviors. But for African Americans, now that you have been in the USA for more than 400 years, of course you have first-hand experience of interacting with not only the white people, but people from other races. And this provides you with an opportunity to come and awaken the black people, so that the brainwashing that we have had that made us see the white people as saviors, so that it can stop. And we eventually are able to understand that we all have ourselves, to rely on, and not think that someone from another continent is going to come to Africa and save us. Well, that's the end for today. And if you want more of this type of content, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Goodbye.